Victoria Waller, hi Rhun, did you receive my questions tonight? Yes, I did, Victoria. I'll come on to that. Well, I'll come on to it now, shall we? Felly gwestiwn wedi cyrraedd ymlaen llaw. A hwn oedd o gan Victoria, if I can find it. Right, Victoria Waller. Hi, Rhun. Firstly, what are your thoughts on the ongoing delays and reductions in services provided by Arriva across North Wales as a whole? I think it's pretty poor stuff, Victoria. I think Arriva, from my experience, has been trying to make up lots of different excuses, looking at 20 mile per hour as one of them, for example. There are a whole host of things that are putting pressure on them. Cost of fuel, cost of servicing, cost of maintaining, general cost of running a service. But at the end of the day, these are purely commercial services. They are looking to maximise the money that they get from them, and they take decisions that they believe will maximise those profits. So, I don't like decisions being taken by Arriva to, detour buses away from villages that were dependent on them. To me, that's not acceptable. Secondly, what are your views on the 20 mile per hour limit implemented by Welsh Government? 20 mile per hour, we've discussed it lots on here. In principle, I support it. I think all village and town centres, where there's interaction between people and vehicles, it makes sense for them to be 20 mile per hour. I do think, though, I've made this very clear, that it has been implemented incredibly badly by Welsh Government in failing to spell out the expectations in terms of the exemptions. I mean, for example, there are 20s being introduced too soon on the way into a village or a town. There are places where it doesn't make sense to have 20s. The legislation that we passed in the Senedd allows for broad-ranging exemptions. And the failure of Welsh Government to communicate that, to make sure that this was implemented across Wales in a consistent way, has been very, very problematic, I think. So Victoria goes on, Welsh Government, and how long do you think it should be allowed to continue? Well, no, I think 20 is fine. It's just sorting out. Plaid Cymru put forward a motion 5 months ago to the Senedd calling for a review of those places where 20 was unreasonable. Welsh Government has done nothing until about a month ago when they kicked off a review. This should be addressed immediately. So 20 is fine for as long as there are vehicles and there are people, but it's got to be in the right place. And this too has had an impact on bus services. I mean, yes and no, and there are bound to be places where there's a minute lost here and there. I'll tell you about my journey down to Cardiff. I tried to take the train most weeks, but sometimes I had to drive. It's a 200-mile journey. 3-4 miles of 20 all the way. It's we've got to be we've got to look at it in terms of evidence. And I know people are angry, and they're angry because of the unreasonable places, I think. But all of this can be accommodated. We can. Pa waith caled. So yeah, Jac Hughes do wedi gofyn cwestiwn ymlaen llaw, hefyd wedi gofyn cwestiwn am fysys yn do. Hai Rhun, be ydych ymateb ynghylch y grantio Llywodraeth Cymru'n rhoi i Arriva i wasanaethu bysiau i Ynys Môn? Pam bod nhw wedi rhoi stop ar wasanaethau pentre fel Bodedan? A mynd ymlaen i egluro pa mor bwysig ydy'r gwasanaeth. Y gwir ydy, Jack, mi oedd hein yn wasanaethau commercial. Doedden nhw ddim yn cael arian. Maen nhw jyst wedi penderfynu dydyn nhw ddim yn mynd i gynnig y gwasanaeth. A dyna di'r broblem. Da ni angen gwasanaeth bysia sydd wedi reoli'n well, fel bod gwasanaethau buses ddim yn gallu cael eu torri yn y ffordd yma. So Jack asks, why did Welsh Government take money away from Arriva, cut grants to Arriva for serving Bodedan? The truth is, these were commercial services. They weren't being given grant funding. They have been able, because we have an unregulated bus service, to just decide, no, we're just going to pull that service. That's why we need to introduce regulation into bus services to make sure that we're able to better control the services that we have. I mean, there are a big issue with cuts to bus services spending across the board, driven down by slashing public spending by the UK Conservative government, and then decisions that we think could be done differently by Labour and Welsh Government too.